'cause I can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Hey, everybody. Coming to you live from Virginia here in the United States of America, the HVAC God live show. It's been a while. Let's see, I was sick one week. I was out of town one week, and really happy to be back with you, taking your questions live. Let's start off the show by saying hello to you guys. So if you are joining us, feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're saying hello from. Scuba Diver wants to know when the show's starting. It's starting now. Starts every week. Well, not every week, obviously, but most Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Gary says, good evening. Good to be here. Thanks for being here, Gary. Appreciate you. And Bob says, testing. He's testing this thing out. And appreciate all you folks for joining us. I got an interesting story to start this week's show out with. But before I get to that crazy story, just want to say hello to anyone that is at AHR. I did not make it this year for personal reasons, but we have a couple of folks that have been guests on our show, which we're going to have more guests soon. But some of the folks that, so Tony Mormino, and forgive me if I miss the award, if I don't get the award right, but I think I do have it right. For those of you that don't know, AHR is the largest, I think it's the largest event, conference, expo, party, among other things. They put all these, anybody and everybody, as far as manufacturers, products, companies that marketing company, you name it, anybody that has anything to do with the industry is usually there. And in addition to that, HVAC Tactical, which we've had Ben, the guy that created HVAC Tactical, which is a clothing brand, but they also do this awards show, and it's usually right at AHR. And so anyway, at the awards show, Tony received I believe it was the best YouTuber, HVAC YouTuber award. So congrats to Tony. He's been a guest on our show. He's the host of the HVAC TV show, a YouTube channel. And then Tim DeStasio, who has also been a guest on our show, won, I believe it was the Mentor of the Year award. So I can't talk tonight. So congrats to those guys. Pretty cool. And congrats to all the folks that won an award this year. It was pretty cool to watch. I watched it live while I was watching the beginning of the Super Bowl. So they were both kind of playing, and so getting to see all kinds of stuff. So anyway, if you have any HVAC questions, concerns, anything that is, let's see. Thanks for the cups and hat. Ryan says, I got those. Perfect. Any of you that I sent everything to, I got some fuzz on my hat. then let me know if you did not get it. So a couple weeks ago, we had a celebration, if you will, of reaching 150,000 subscribers. And thank you to you folks for subscribing. Means a lot, and it helps us. And so we had a little celebration, gave away a few things, and so Ryan got the cups and hat. JC, I've got a video coming out tomorrow that you're going to be in, pal. So if those of you that follow us on the HVAC Guide for Homeowners YouTube channel, we also have a channel that's for pros or for everyone else. It's not always homeowner related, and JC is an expert of many things. But one of the many things is how to properly size ductwork. And so we break it down, make it easy, make it simple. And if you're not following that show, or that channel, subscribe over there and you'll get to see JC's new video coming out tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. I think it launches at 11:30 tomorrow. JC. Bob says hello to everyone. Renee says got the package, and thanks. You're welcome. Thank you. Steve says, Tony, is he the guy from Georgia? I think Tony lives in the mountains of North Carolina. So I'm not sure where he's from, but that's where he definitely lives. And he was actually on a guest on our show a couple weeks ago when we gave away all that stuff. So pretty cool. And then he goes down to AHR and wins a bunch of awards. So pretty cool. JC's in Tulsa. Is this thing on? Emery says. Do you guys hear me okay? Am I coming in okay? Maybe there's something going on and I don't know it. So love never fails. That must be an address. Anyway, let's get to our story for this week. Pretty crazy story out of Culver City, which, as I understand it, is a suburb of LA. It's kind of right there near Beverly Hills and Hollywood and Santa Monica, and it's called Culver City. And it says a worker injured in an HVAC explosion on the mall's roof. And so I have a couple questions, but let me get to the story. It says explosion on mall rooftop leaves one worker hospitalized. A worker sustained severe injuries in a workplace accident at the Culver City Mall on Friday evening, according to the Culver City Police Department. The Culver City Police and Fire Departments responded to a medical emergency at a parking structure located at 6,000. I'm not even going to try to say that word because I don't speak half the stuff I say correctly anyway. Boulevard. At approximately 6:28 p.m., officials said the incident involved a minor explosion while the worker was servicing an HVAC unit on the mall's roof near the Target store. Emergency responders transported the injured worker to a hospital for treatment. No updates on the individual's condition were immediately available. Authorities confirmed there were no hazardous materials involved and no risk to the public. Mall operations were not disrupted. Culver City Public Information Officer Jennifer Atenza urged residents to sign up for the city's Nexel alert system to be informed of any such emergencies in future. So hearts and prayers go out to this person that was injured. I said I had a couple questions. Probably my main question is, and I don't know that it's necessarily clear in this article, and that is, who was this worker? Were they someone that was actually working on this heating and air system, which I would guess is probably the case. But you would think if that was the case, they wouldn't be so vague. They'd maybe say, an HVAC technician and so on. But the other question I always have, and I never seem to get the answers for, and when we see articles like this, and that is, oh, I forgot to make this a little larger for you guys. I apologize for that, guys. But the question I always wonder is, when we see fires and explosions and all these different things, is why? I want reasons. I want to know why it exploded. Why? I mean, heating and air systems don't just explode. If they're maintained properly, if they're if the proper safety precautions are taken, heating and air systems don't just up and explode. And so that's always my question. Why? Why are we seeing this? What happened? And of course we'll never get those answers. A lot of this sort of thing is hush hush, and they don't want you know something to get out, especially if there was some sort of liability, negligence, etc. But again, prayers to whoever was hurt there. Hopefully, it's something they can recover from in a timely manner. But yeah, it's a lot of questions there, and why is my biggest one. Why did it happen? What are they doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? And I mean, and I'm sure they are doing things, but what actually happened is always my question. So let's see. Back to our chat here. JC says he can hear me. You might hear me, JC, just because I'm so loud. I mean, I know you're way out in Oklahoma. I'm way over in Virginia, and maybe that's why I'm just a loud guy. SFL says American girl working on contract in fantastic Toronto, Canada, where Canadians love Americans. Seriously. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. And we love you guys too. I don't even understand all this stuff in the news, and it's almost like they're always trying to create a divide. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm submitting my tax form 5695 residential energy credits for the mini split heat pump I installed in 2024. Hope it goes through with all the changes in the government. So that's been a hot topic, Ryan, because as I believe we did a video on that where the Trump administration did sign an executive order putting a halt to some of these government incentives and rebates. But many in our industry are arguing that a lot of this money has already been allocated. And so I believe you're in North Carolina. I'm not as familiar with North Carolina, but I've been told here in Virginia specifically that a lot of the programs are still in place. They're probably not going to be in place much longer, but the money's been allocated. So I always say, and I'll say it again, please check with your tax professional. I think in that video, I say it like 3 times. I think when I originally recorded it, it was like 5 or 6 times. And we had to edit some of those out because, at the end of the day, it just, becomes a broken record, right? So JC says we will see probably a gas leak. I don't know. I mean, it is that time of year. I guess it is a little cooler, but how cold does it get out there? Again, regardless of what it was, gosh, I'd like to know why. First time here. I live in Nova, so not too far from me. I used to live in the DC area. So welcome to the show. Learning so much from your channel. Can you recommend a good HVAC company? Now I know no one has been through so far. Now I know no one has been through so far. Unfortunately, I don't. Well, let me back up. I do personally know a couple guys up in the DC area. However, like one of them, I would even argue was probably one of my mentors along the way. But I don't know. I don't want to point you in that direction because I don't know anything about them or their company or how they operate. And so I would just say, just as anyone else, I would do some Google searching. I would ignore some of the websites where they can pay money and be reflected better with the reviews. If you're going to look at reviews, I like Google. It for the most part. I know they've got this new Google Guaranteed program, but I've even seen where some heating and air companies, and I'm sure it's other companies too, but heating and air companies especially, they're getting a little upset right now because Google's going through and auditing some of these reviews and removing reviews that they can't validate and know for sure that it was a third party opinion. I guess there's just so many websites where, you can buy reviews, or I don't know. I don't know how any of that works, but I do know there are companies that say had 500 reviews that now only have 200 reviews or something like that. They've got a significant less presence, if you will, with the number of reviews that they have. And so that'll be interesting. But the thing I always say is don't just look at reviews, read those reviews. You'll know if they're valid. You'll know if somebody is speaking the truth. They're not just throwing a 5-star review up there and writing 2 words. Read it. A lot of times they'll tell the story. They'll talk about a specific technician, good or bad, read the bad reviews and the good reviews. The bad reviews, they may leave them a 1-star review, but you start reading through it and you realize that maybe the homeowner, the other customer, was being a little unreasonable. You just never know. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Steve says, the news is so vague. Yes, thank you, vague. Steve says, I'll be thinking the same thing, Josh. All news is like this. Yeah. Yep. JC says sound is perfect. Good to know. Thank you for that. Thank you for answering my question. Absolutely. So anybody else that's got a question out there, feel free. I made a few changes to our show, and I'm hoping that the screen share and all that work better than they have in the past. And because of that, I've got a couple cool things I want to show you guys. Let me pull up one of our crazy clips. I've got several because for the longest time it wasn't working. So just bear with me one moment while I get logged in on a few of these websites. And so that way I can show this video. Bear with me here. Let's see. Let's see. Bear with me here. This video is on Facebook and it's making me go through a whole lot of stuff just to try to get on there. Bear with me, guys. Is it going to work? Come on. All right, I think it's coming up. Save your login info. For some reason, it is signing me in on. Okay, hold on. Sign me in on my wife's account. Hold on, guys. I'm so sorry. Why did not work? Come on. Sorry, guys. Come on. All right, it's coming up. Yeah, I've got a really funny video to show you guys. They make it so hard to log in on some of these websites now. Come on. Okay. Trust this device. Come on now. Bear with me. Okay, here we go. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that. Let me make my fat face smaller. So anyway, this guy, I saw this video the other day. This guy's installing he's installing, geez Louise. He's installing a little ductless system, it looks like. And he's got a little makeshift boat that's like a barrel. And I guess it's a barrel. It's something he's turned into a boat. But watch, I mean, the balance, give this man a raise. I don't know what country he's in. But it definitely does not look like he's in North America. But very impressive. Watch this. In fact, when I first saw this, I was waiting for him to stand up on those boards that are running across the boat there. But still impressive. This is nothing I ever had to do in my heating and air company. There he go. Oh, he did. That's right, he did. So he did stand up on the boards. And never fell in. He still dries dry. Got that system up there. Yeah, he looked like he was relieved. So, pretty good. Let's see. Let's go back to our chat here. Well, what do you guys think of that? That's something that I never had to do at my company. JC says reviews are good. It's the 4-star review that are important. It's the 4-star review that are important. Ryan says when searching for an HVAC company, I go to Google Maps and search for HVAC contractors and click on those and look at the pictures of their work. Any company using fake or stock HVAC images, avoid. Yeah, I have my mastermind. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I got a couple pros that we meet with. If that's something any of you are ever interested in, just go to our website, newhvacguide.com, and you go to the bottom and you just click on the growth groups. But anyway, some of those guys, it's something I talk to them about from time to time because there's I've said it on the show before, but there's this guy. He's the most famous heating and air technician in the world, definitely in this country, because let's see, HVAC contract, because he's on every website. He's on 90% of the websites. So if I search HVAC contractor, some of these guys are some of the most famous guys in the country, because they're on all these different websites. They're literally, and I have to admit, when I first started my company, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, I probably did the same thing. I feel like I remember doing it. And so like this guy right here, he's probably the most famous guy in America. I see him on all kinds of websites, either that or his coworker here or his mentor, whatever this guy is. It's usually one of those two guys with their hard hats or this guy. I've seen this guy on 100 different websites. So, touche to them. They're probably more famous than they know. Because if you go to any heating and air company website, chances are 80% of them are going to have one of those guys on there. So, but yeah, it's something I talk to the guys in our mastermind about all the time. Get some pictures, even if they're not the greatest picture in the world, but just it's a picture of you doing some work, and show people that you're real, that you are in their area. If you're in I know Ryan, I think you're down near Charlotte. I don't know what the landmarks are in Charlotte, but if there's some statue in the middle of the city that everyone would recognize, take a picture with that. If you're a local heating and air, I remember on our website, I live near the water in Virginia, near the Rappahannock River and the Chesapeake Bay. And we would take pictures from time to time of us working at a house on the water or whatever, just showing, we're real people. We're right here local. And I think that's important, right? Hey, brother. Hello, brother. How are you? You can get many views through YouTube video SEO and eye-catching thumbnail. Well, thank you. Appreciate that advice. SFL says 700 square foot townhouse. What size heat pump would you suggest? 2 bedrooms. I would suggest getting a proper load calculation. And if that's something you need done, just search that on our channel and you click the link. In fact, this guy right here, JC, does that for folks. He doesn't do it for free, but he does do it for folks. So if you don't have a contractor local to you, or people are cutting corners and just simply not doing load calculations, that's something that JC can help you out with. Gary says, pretty cool. The installer got it up into place, but too bad. A couple of deep fingerprints in the intake fins. LOL. Yeah. Hey, at least that's all that happened, right? That thing didn't end up in the water. So, kudos to him. Kudos to that guy. Let's see. I've got another clip I wanted to show you guys. It's funny. I always put little blurbs by the clips when I'm saving them. And I say for that guy, I wrote best tech ever, best heating and air technician ever. So kudos to that guy. All right. So I got another one I want to show you guys. I thought this was kind of funny. Obviously, he's joking, but I know there's
How other companies diagnose units.
he even says how other companies diagnose units. All right, let me see if I can make my fat face smaller. Hold on. All right, here we go.
How other companies diagnose units. You need a new one.
He's not wrong. So shout out to Casper Friendly Services wherever they are. Because I know he's not kidding. That I believe there are some folks in our industry. They don't make us look very good, right? And there is times that they do that sort of stuff. So SFL says thank you, Emery. So Emery's helping some folks out. Yeah, it's been crazy last couple weeks. We had a couple videos do really well, so thank you to you guys that watched some of those videos. We're learning some things. One of the things we're trying to get better at is we're trying to understand what you guys want. So if you ever have something specific you want us to do a video on, we do read the comments. I've got a lady that works with me, and we keep an eye on that. So a lot of times if it's something like super specific, so if you're like, hey, can you do a video on a heat exchanger for a train, platinum series or what, if you get like super specific, it's hard for us to do much with that. But when folks are asking questions like, hey, what is this setting on my thermostat, it helps us know how to make videos to help you guys out. So that's honestly where some of those videos came from. We're also trying to keep an eye on some of the crazy things that are happening that affect all of us, things at the national level, rules that are being put in place, and rules that are not. So we've made a few videos on that lately. And so, yeah, we're just trying to get the word out and be better informed on all of that good stuff. Emery says, question, what happens if the return vent is not sized properly? Well, if it's too large, usually in residential, the answer is not much. So if it's oversized, if the return is oversized, it's usually not a bad thing. In fact, I would prefer it be a little oversized because people don't replace their filters as often as they should, which can affect airflow and so on. But if it's undersized, it can add static. So there's something called static pressure, and systems are set up for specific external static pressure to have proper airflow. And when the return is not sized enough, just imagine you trying to breathe through half your mouth, and you're trying to pull in enough air to breathe, and you're just not allowed to do that. So it's a bigger topic now, because when we had PSC motors, they could ramp down, whereas today we have motors that will adjust, and it still doesn't change the fact that they're starving for air. But back to your original question, what happens? Well, yeah, it's going to starve for air. You could have failures because of that. It's harder on the equipment. But in the short term, if you're not moving enough air, you can have things like coils freeze up, or your head pressure get too high, for example, in heating mode, if you're not moving enough air, things like that. So it's and obviously I'm talking about it on the extreme levels. I would say it's probably not unheard of to see the majority of systems have ductwork that's undersized, at least slightly. And that's, that at bare minimum, it'll make your system run louder. You'll hear a louder, you might even hear a whistle. I've seen that in some houses where, literally the return grill is whistling, trying to pull in enough air. So what are your thoughts on GREE packaged units? So is GREE making packaged units now? Colton, you might be teaching me something here, pal. I know they had the GREE Flex, and I know Bosch has had their, version of non-communicating, inverter systems. among others. There's several out there now that are coming on. But GRE package unit. Let's see what they've got going on up in here. So share this tab. Let's see. Let me make my fat face a little smaller here so you guys can see what I'm seeing. So X-Pack. I think Ryan might have brought this. Somebody did tell me about this when it first came out. And so it's essentially, as I understand it, a non-communicating inverter package unit, very similar to what Bosch is offering with theirs. But very impressive SEER rating there. So up to, well, where was it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I think Ryan, were you the one that originally told me about this? One of you guys told me about the X-Pack once before, and it just slipped my mind. So it says up to 17.8 SEER 2, cooling range 20. So it'll cool down to 23 and up to 125. Heating range down to negative 22. That's pretty impressive. And 75, 100% capacity at 15 degrees. Decent. There's other systems out there that, at least split systems, that could be a little lower than that, but still pretty impressive. Back to your question, Colton, I have not laid hands on one of these, so I don't know that I could say much about them, good or bad. But it is interesting to see more companies dip their toe in package units because, we're seeing more and more companies almost kind of say, well, that's such a small part of the market, and so we're going to not necessarily avoid it, but it's not going to be what we hang our hat on. So it's interesting to see another company come along with another option there. Your browser has lost connection to your screen share audio. Try sharing your screen again, restart the browser if this continues to be a problem. Well, right now it's not a problem because I haven't shown any. That video or that website didn't have any sound, so we're good. Homemade says, do you suggest we can purchase system with R32 now or stick with 410A? Well, I think it's a good question. I did a video now it's been a while, so things change. I think ultimately, well, let me back up. I think the decision is yours. So I don't want you to be mad at me a year from now or 3 years from now, right? When you maybe went the wrong direction, right? But I do believe, just like with R22, as 410A continues to be it's being phased down. In some states, it's going to eventually be phased out. And I think the writing's on the wall, and it'll probably be eventually completely phased out of our country entirely, right? But for now, you can still get it. But just like anything else, if we know that it's going to become more scarce, that'll probably affect the price. And I think if I would also defer to your local contractor. So if your local contractor says to you that they're scared of the new refrigerants, I would take them at their word. And maybe that's either not the contractor I want putting in a new A2L system, or I would, go with what they recommend because they're my contractor, right? But just as a general rule, if 410A is going away, we know it's probably going to become more scarce, and things do go up in price when that happens. Obviously, I'm not a psychic. I can't guarantee that, but that's my 2 cents on that. JC says, diagnostic skills seem to be losing ground. If a company skates their training budget in their marketing, give them a shot at the business. Touche on that. I talked to a company today, and they're doing trainings. I believe he said 3 times a week now, that they're pulling their and they're a decent sized company. They're pretty big, probably the biggest in our area. And they're really making training a priority, which is great. There's going to be good things to come from that, I believe. So Ryan says, Josh, can you show a commissioning report? I heard companies like Daikin can produce a commissioning report for contractors to show customers to to show customers to show that they installed the system properly. Yeah, so Daikin did come out with the what do they call it? Quality install. And it produces a report after they commission the system and do startup. Um I will do my best to try to get my hands on one. As you know, I sold my company, so I don't sell them as much now. Or, I'm usually now the guy that either teaches the class or I'm the guy that comes out and fixes it, helps them figure out what's wrong when they can't figure it out. So I'm not there when the system's being installed as much, but I think it's a good idea. I think I should definitely work on that. Fan surge is a possibility. That is where the blower motor runs unloaded and air flows backwards the impeller. That's true. Very true. How can I get a company to do a complete assessment? What questions should I ask them when vetting them? Ooh, there's a good question right there. I have a video coming out on our new channel on the it's for the pros. So if you're not a pro, a lot of the content may not pertain to you, but next Wednesday we should have a video that's coming out, and it's going to go through some of the tools that every heating and air contractor should have. And if you watch that video, you should be able to say to the contractor, hey, can I see this tool? Can I see that tool? And what we're finding is a lot of contractors don't have some of those tools that are necessary to do the job. I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years, and if I can't set the gas pressures correctly without a manometer, how are you doing it when you're only in this trade for 2 or 3 years and you don't own a manometer? How are you getting those set correctly? So that might be one thing you can start with, is asking that technician specifically, not necessarily the company. Just because a technician's bad doesn't mean the company themselves are bad necessarily, but asking that technician directly, hey, where's your manometer? Where's your megger? Where's your micron gauge? Asking some of those types of questions and seeing what their reaction is. Can they produce it? They may say to you, well, I don't necessarily have a micron gauge. I don't do the installs. I do service. Okay. I still think maybe you should have one on your truck, but I hear you. But maybe that might be a place to start. Ask for all of the readings. Yes, Gree has inverter package units called XPAC. Hello, do you think we should purchase system with R32 now? Thank you. Yes, yeah. So that was what we kind of covered there for a second ago. I think 410A is going to be around for a while longer. So I do think we're still maybe in that phase where if you want to stick with 410, you probably can, and you should be able to get refrigerant for it for years to come. But it's going to become more scarce, especially depending on what state you're in, because some states are trying to speed it up. Not going to mention any names, but there are some states that are saying by the year 2029, they don't even you won't even be able to buy it in their state. I don't know if that's true. I feel like just like with R22, if you have enough money and you want to still buy a jug of it, and you look hard enough, you can probably find somewhere that sells it, but you're going to pay a pretty penny right now, right? You and the guy from Colorado that did your show, I mentioned it too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. JC says temporize, static pressure, gas pressure, combustion analysis, burners cleaned, flame sensor clean, drains clean, safeties checked. We can do a video on that. I actually have a video coming on that. Somebody else had requested, might have been one of you folks, had asked for a video of things that should be covered on maintenance and or maintained properly. We've got a video coming up with a lot of those sorts of things. But I like what you said there, JC. Maybe we should do some more content where we talk about what some of these readings should be, because that matters, right? And I honestly think some heating and air guys don't know. Now, if you don't know what your gas pressure should be, maybe you should read the instructions, but how to do a proper combustion analysis and what your readings should be. That might be, again, not really something homeowners are going to mess with a whole lot, but it's kind of good for them to know what's up, might help them in working with some of those contractors. You're popular tonight, Josh. People miss the show. Glad it's back. Yeah, I actually talked to somebody about that the other day, about, if maybe we're not here every week, maybe it's making the show a little more special. Maybe folks will be more inclined, to show up and be here. So either way, glad everybody that's here. Appreciate you taking time out to watch us. So our system replaced last spring uses 410. I have no fear of R32. Good, good. I honestly don't think you should. Most of those scary videos on the internet of things blowing up, have you ever noticed if it says R32, blah, blah, blah? They're always in like a third world country and the guy's barefooted and there's sand everywhere, and then the unit blows up and you're like, what are you doing? you know? So I think I don't think there's anything to be fearful of. There's definitely things to be cautious about and be safe when using, but I'm not saying that you need to have fear of it. So if an HVAC tech does not know what they have, that they have already been using A2L refrigerants, get another one. Yes, it's on the Tech Hub app. Who's your favorite distributor? I hear East Coast is very slow. Where are you located, Colton? Because that might play a role in the answer to your question. I worked for Johnstone and they were my favorite one, which JC's throwing out there. I sold my company and took a job at Johnstone. But even before that, they had gotten to be the only. And I will say, I don't even know that it was necessarily that Johnstone was so great. It was some of the guys that I now work with were great. So they were at one point, they were the only place I would spend money at. A buddy of mine, Horace, I would just call him and I'd be like, if you're, as long as I don't care if you're more expensive than the next guy, just don't be so much more expensive. Give me a break on a few things here and I'll keep it in the family, is what I used to tell him. JC says he's not good at typing and spelling. Emery says, how do determine there's a refrigerant leak using manifold gauges? You can't, unless your needles are just if it's a really big leak, I guess you could find it that way. But there's better ways to find a refrigerant leak with tools called sniffers, with UV dye, with bubbles. There's other better ways to find a refrigerant leak. Your ears. R32 has been carrying the industry for a long time. I mean, I've done videos on that. You guys know how I feel about R32. I think that a lot of these other systems, these other companies that are using other refrigerants, it makes me wonder what's going on. Especially when I don't want to get into this. I've done other videos on it, but ultimately saying that there's just many reasons why I think you should be looking at R32 versus some of the other options that are out there. It doesn't have PFAs in them. If you don't know what those are, just Google it. They're pretty scary. They're toxic, which some of the refrigerants do. It doesn't, it's not patented. No one can control the price of it. It's single component. It's easier to work with. There's a number of reasons that it's just better. It takes less of it to get the same capacity. So I'm not saying it's the end all. I'm not saying they're not going to switch again, but for now it seems to be the best option that's out there. The flame retardant 410A is really bad for the environment. Yeah, 125. It's also really bad at heat transfer, but it definitely has a high GWP. Can you not produce the commissioning report after the fact or show the status of the installation like pressures afterwards? Since you are the trainer, I hope Daikin has some examples to give you. I can work on that. Just give me some time, Ryan. You roughing me up, man. You roughing me up. Colton says, I work for Johnstone out of Raleigh. Dude, we need to hook up. If you're in Raleigh, you're with the J team. You need to shoot me an email or something. JC's with JC, what's the group you're with called? He's with the group he's with has like 10 states. They just acquired a few more. So the one I'm with is tiny. So, but yeah, shoot me a text or email, Colton. We need to link up. Just call the Williamsburg Johnstone. That's probably be the easiest way. Call the Williamsburg Johnstone and leave your information there with Stuart. He's the manager over there, and he'll call me right away. We'll get in touch. So I don't want to say call Stuart and ask for my number because he may be like, well, who are you? You know? So, but anyway, Gary says 3 years ago, my leaky 1992 York Central unit was low on R22. Needless to say, it was $100 a pound and I needed 3. That was a pricey visit. I hear you. I can't imagine what it's going for now because a jug of it is $2,500, depending on where you get it, what state you're in. It's just so much higher. I mean, I remember when I got in this trade, I mean, we were buying that's the thing. I'm not that old. Like, I still feel like I'm a young pup compared to some of these guys that have been doing this, since the 80s and such. But when I got in this trade, I mean, R22, you could still buy a jug of it for, I want to say definitely less than $150, but maybe less than 100. I remember when 410 came out, you could buy a jug of it for, I think, $60. And, it's just crazy. And the other thing is, why is it so expensive now? I understand why R22 is expensive because it's becoming more and more scarce, but why is 410A so darn expensive? It has not kept up with inflation. So it's not that, and so I think we could probably all guess what it probably is, but no, I'm not going to get into that. Emery says, what happens to systems with R22 if they have to be charged? Well, you can still get it if you want it bad enough. There are also refrigerants that can be used as a replacement refrigerant. I'm not going to get into which ones are good or bad because it seems like everybody has their own opinion on that. But I think by the time you're putting something other than R22 in an R22 system, you're probably on borrowed time anyway. But there were still systems being installed all the way up until 2016 that had R22 in them, brand new. Now they were dry charged, but they were still R22 systems. So that would mean, doing the math, there are R22 systems out there still under warranty. I mean, that is just crazy to me, because it feels like it was a lifetime ago now. But yes, there are still R22 systems out there that are still under warranty to today, which is nuts to me. JC says, we signed 4 new contractors this past week that left Train and American Standard. Johnstone is taking over here. We got some things cooking too, JC. We should talk about that though. Because I'd love to hear some insights on your end on that. But we've got a few big dogs in our area that are maybe gonna come on over to the good side. So JC says 1234 YF has PFAs. Yep, Google that. I would definitely check that out. Do communicating systems only control accessories from the contractor? If I had a separate humidifier or dehumidifier, would I have to buy the branded one from the HVAC equipment manufacturer? There's exceptions to every rule, Ryan, but I would say that more times than not, the answer to your question is yes, you can install aftermarket or other branded equipment. And the reason is, even with communicating systems, a lot of the systems out there now, again, I'm sure there's exceptions to this rule, but a lot of them are designed with what we call dry contacts. And those contacts are meant to give you the ability to, because, things like a humidifier, it's just a solenoid with a normally open solenoid in there. Sorry, a solenoid with a normally open solenoid. That sounds stupid. It's a valve in there with a normally open solenoid that just controls that. And so it's, the controller can still, operate whether you have it set up to come on when the blower comes on or however you have it set up, depending on what type of system you have. Typically the answer is yes, you can install other ones. So JC's with the Temple Group. That's right. So I don't know if Colton's still in here, but yeah, we should link up, Colton. If nothing else, have a conversation. Call the Tulsa Johnstone and ask for JC2. We have 11 stores across 4 states. Yeah, now he's flexing. He's flexing now. Phase down in production. We were selling R22 at $6 a pound. That's crazy. That is crazy, especially today. So I know some contractors are reselling reclaimed refrigerants like R22, losing capacity and spending the same energy. I will say on that reclaimed stuff, as long as you know for sure what that's always scared me. And the reason is you don't know what you're doing unless you know what you're doing, right? And you might say, well, a heating and air guy might say to me, well, Josh, I know that was R22. I pulled it out of the system. I did everything right. I ran it through a filter dryer. Everything. I should have some good R22 refrigerant that I can use now. And my argument would be, well, how do you know that was R22 that you pulled out of there? What about if the last guy didn't do? I don't know. It just always I'm just it just gives me anxiety even thinking about some of that stuff. And then you go putting it in someone else's system, and that is just the amount of problems you could be causing somebody. Moving along, chat's cooking, guys. If you don't mind, hit that like button. Depending on which platform you're watching us on, YouTube or Facebook, we would certainly appreciate that. If you happen to catch this on one of our podcasts, because a lot of our live shows are now being streamed to all the major podcasting platforms, so you can listen to it. And if you happen to do that, do me a favor and just click the whatever button that helps the show. So I know a lot of the platforms, it's just simply leaving a review. That would certainly help us out, and we appreciate it. I'm hoping to be completely, well, anyway, I don't want to get into the future, but I'm hoping to make some changes soon to where we can bring even more good content for you guys. I've got a big thing in April. We're going to be traveling across the country to do a video on, so I'm excited about that. I'll just leave it there and stay vague, but I'm excited about that. So we'll be recording that in April, and we'll have a video coming out soon after that. But we got some cool things coming up. Some cool things. JC, I keep saying JC. Losing capacity and spending the same energy. 407C was a cheap replacement for R22. Now is not available. Got it. Okay. I haven't really kept up with that. No, but they do work better. It's an HFC, so it's being phased out. I heard R32 evaporator coil cabinets are now smaller C cabinets and not larger D cabinets, easier to fit into attic doors. I think there is some instances where the equipment is going to be smaller because of the smaller capacity, but there are exceptions to every rule. So just don't bank on that, obviously. Depends on the efficiency. House was built in 53. System is from 09. Wanted to replace registers, but the metal boxes in the wall are not perfect squares, so can't fit the 12x4 registers. Can boxes be changed? Interesting. I think the answer is usually yes, but I would defer to your local contractor on that. Might be a little bit of a bear to get that done. And I would defer to your local contractors, but most of them, I would say most contractors, if you call them over something like that, like a large job, they'll come out and give you a free estimate usually, but not always. Just depends. This is Harper. My dad went to be. Well, thanks, Harper. Appreciate that, buddy. You should win an HVAC Tactical Award for most helpful professionals. You share so much knowledge and you make yourself accessible to ask questions. That's rare and you should be recognized, Josh. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. I would be honored, but one thing that I will say that the tactical awards have done a good job of is they're recognizing some of the folks that are up and coming. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I would be honored, and we'll see. Maybe someday. Uh, I think part of that is you got to make it to the to an award show to be recognized at one. And I actually had tickets to go to it this year, but I had some things come up, some personal things, and I knew I wasn't going to make it to AHR. But I want to go next year. Next year, AHR is supposed to be in Vegas. That's actually where I had my honeymoon with my wife, which is kind of cool. But every single year I say I'm going next year, and then something happens. I said that when they went to Chicago. I said it this year for Orlando. And maybe if for 1 year, if I don't say I'm going to make it, maybe that'll be the year I make it. But I will definitely try to go if JC is going to be there. JC, if you go to HR, I will do my best to be there. So let's do it. Thank you for the heads up. I was hoping it would be a quick switcheroo. Well, maybe it is. I mean, what do I know? It very well could be. I would say in general, ductwork and tearing things out of walls. I mean, that just usually screams blah blah big job for most residential guys, but it may not be that big of a deal. Gary says, just a fun fact. Under my Mitsubishi outdoor unit, there is a skating rink. It was 11 degrees here in Massachusetts this morning. I did a video of the defrost cycle and was clouded in fog. That's awesome. So she's working. She's working. That's great. Well, at least the defrost works, right? I'm putting that one to bed now. I will go. Okay. Sounds good, man. Let's figure it out. I would go every year if I could, but I think when my daughter gets older, it probably won't be as big of a deal. But she's in those years where I want to be there for everything anyway, and then just with everything going on, she just turned 4 last weekend, so it's just a lot going on. It's that season of life. I think they don't like professionals that help homeowners. It's like they think an educated customer is a bad customer. I think there is some of that, Ryan, since you bring it up. I know we've got some pros that are joining us here right now, but a lot of pros. In fact, I don't get as many as I used to, but I used to get a pile of hate. I would get hateful comments. Now I just ignore it. I used to delete them because I was thin-skinned and I was new and whatever. But I actually had a guy threaten me. He emailed me and was like, if I see you and da 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 da. And it was all because I made a thermostat video that he didn't like. And so yeah, all in all, a lot of times when I meet someone in our trade or whatever, I'll start out with saying, hey, my content is for homeowners, but it's more for mom. It's not for, hairy homeowner that's doing DIY stuff. If I ever did a DIY video and someone did something and they got hurt from it, I would not be able to sleep at night. That would just be awful. I remember a guy did there are guys that do DIY stuff and then they'll put, and no offense, I'm actually good friends with a few of them, but they'll do DIY content on YouTube and then they'll put a disclaimer that's like, oh, if you get hurt, it's on you. You shouldn't be doing stuff you don't. And I'm like, man, and you're okay with that? I can't get on board with that. I would not be able to sleep well at night if someone got hurt based on something I was trying to, I don't know. So again, I do content like this. I try to help folks. I try to make them understand things better. I don't know everything, but I think the things that I do know, I feel like I can portray them well and I can help somebody before they make a bad decision, right? That's the whole goal here. Emery says, tell more about the problem of dirty air filters and why it affects the performance of my system. Ooh. Well, that's a whole animal. We could get into static pressures. We could get into airflow. We could get into an array of things, but ultimately, you know, if you JC and I did a video where we talked about on the new channel, we talked about sizing returns and sizing return grills. And we talked about adding or how it adds static pressure and it affects airflow and things like that. What is a lot of folks I don't think about enough is when your air filter starts to get dirtier and dirty. So imagine this is your air filter and there's holes there that particulates are going, you know, are getting caught by while the air goes through. And the more particulates that are caught, the smaller those holes start to get. And it starts restricting air more and more. And then eventually a dirty air filter can literally cause a failure to your heating and air system. So, anyway, that's kind of, that's the gist. That's the big thing in a nutshell. You guys are amazing. Thanks for doing this live and for the others to comment as well. Thank you. Thank you for being here. JC says that guy deserves no thoughts. JC, taking aim. Let's do this. If you are still here, we know there are some bad apples in our industry. We know there are some folks that make us all look bad. And if you know a good apple, so if you know a good heating and air, electrical or plumbing company, or anybody else for that matter, but if you know specifically someone in the trades and they're a good apple, do me a favor, drop the name of the company and where they're located in the chat. We'll highlight them on the screen right here. And, you know, let's show some love to some of those companies. And you never know, you might end up showing a little more than love. You might actually have someone in your area see your comment and say, I'm going to call that company. So let's blow it up and share all those companies, if you guys don't mind, in the chat. So that way we can show some of that love to those companies. That said, I will say, as you guys are loading that up, next week I will be here. I'll be here at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And then the week after that, I think it's the last Tuesday of the month, I will be out of town again. So just to let you guys know up front. SFL says there are more good apples than we realize. We only hear about the rotten ones. That's a good point. There are some good ones out there. Very good point. Emery says Barker's Heating and Cooling in College Station, Texas. So shout out to Barker's. They must be doing something good. They were a Lennox dealer and now they sell Train. Nice. Gary says, another great show, Josh. Enjoy the friendship with you and our friends here tonight. Have a great night, Gary. Thank you very much. Bob says, Mark, I'm probably not going to say this right, Bob. Mark Morrow Mechanical. And I think Bob's in Texas. I don't remember exactly where, but so shout out to Mark Morrow Mechanical. Shout out to those guys. Good enough. Well, that's it for this week, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you are following our videos, we've got another good one. So we've got one coming out next Tuesday. And then that's on the main channel for homeowners. And then we've got one coming out tomorrow on the new channel for pros. This is simply called HVAC Guide. And JC, who's here with us, who's highlighting a company in Tulsa, will be in that video. So thank you to JC. Thank you to the rest of you. JC says quality heat and air and plumbing, Pro Thermal, Be Cool, Airco, lots of great people in the Tulsa area. Good stuff. TNC Heating and Cooling and Super Cool in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So shout out to those guys. How do you determine what brand of product you sell? Great question, Emery. I will answer that live next week. Just remember to bring that question back with you. That said, Bob says he's in the Houston area. Good enough. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you then. Make it a great week. Take care.